Hi everyone, just wanted to come on and address a few issues about my previous comments on my previous post. I guess what I'm trying to do is trying to make homelessness a community issue. There's a distinct lack of understanding through government and through charities, even those that work with homeless communities, not everybody, but there's across the board and society in general, there's a distinct lack of understanding of the issue itself in homelessness and the barriers around trying to help people. So I thought I would address those issues. I'm also desperately trying to put information out there that's going to make people understand the complexities of homelessness and what the government is doing wrong and how they could do things better. And until the government does things differently, we are always going to have that homeless community on the streets, and they're always going to be growing. And there's going to be people that cannot get off the streets. There's no way out for them. And unfortunately, the practices and the policies that the government have put in place are, in my opinion, actively keeping people on the streets. Now, let's address some of the issues on my post. I feel so blessed that we've had so many people coming out on my post, commenting and showing empathy and understanding the meaning behind my 2 posts I did yesterday and how much this means to me and how important it is to me to get these people off the streets and into housing. And I was saying to a lady today, I don't want to live in a compassionless society. We are better than that. We lift each other up. We care for one another. We support one another. And that's the way that we do things. And I can see our state heading backwards in that area. And, I think for the first 2.5 years, I think, in my view, this Labor government did a wonderful job at building the state and bringing money into the state and all those sorts of things. And I know that's important. But I also watched the other things that are just as important, in my view, fall by the wayside, which is the ramping issues, the health system, the aged care system, the NDIS system, the education system. Everything seems to be going backwards in those humanitarian areas and services that we deserve to have, high quality care. My parents are aging now, and I'm getting off track, but there's so many issues. Let's stick to the point at hand, is homelessness. And I really was quite proud that there were so many people coming out saying, we want to help. But unfortunately, I've been through this before, and about 10% of the people that write on the post, yes, they care, but many of them don't follow through, and many of them don't do anything to help. And then you get the people that offer help, but offer the wrong thing, and it's through no fault of their own, because they don't understand what's happening on the streets and the thought processes. Like, for instance, people offer always to cook meals. I don't take meals from other people and hand them out. The reason I don't do that is because I know what's in my food. I know the conditions that I'm cooking it in. I know the dietary requirements of the people that I'm feeding, because over time I find out. And believe it or not, I have to plan menus each week of what I'm going to cook, because it has to be a certain type of food. There are issues, for instance, like most people don't eat. Now, considering a lot of these people come from low socioeconomic backgrounds and very, very abusive households, and all have extreme trauma stories to tell. There's lots of food sensitivities, foods they won't eat, foods they can't medically eat because of the fact they might not have any teeth, or they might have gum issues or teeth issues. They can only eat soft foods. They might none of them eat tuna. I'd love to do a big pot of tuna mornay, but there's very few that'll eat tuna. So I have to do what everybody's going to like because I've got 10 to 15 people to cook for. So it's not easy for somebody to say, and they like my cooking, to be honest with you. They say, oh, we like your cooking, and if somebody else cooks and gives it to me, they won't eat it. And it's purely because they know that I've done the homework and I know exactly what they'll eat, what they like, and what they're medically able to eat. So it's not just a matter of, I'll cook somebody a pot of soup or I'll cook somebody this, because there's certain foods they just can't eat or don't want to eat. Like for instance with sandwiches, I only ever do ham and cheese sandwiches or cheese for vegetarians. I don't do anything else other than ham and cheese because I know that they're easy to eat. And there's not much effort in eating those, and they can chew those. Where if I was going out to buy roast beef or anything like that, they wouldn't eat it. They'd throw it in the bin because they wouldn't be able to chew it. They wouldn't be able to eat it. So there is so many different aspects to cooking for these people. You might get a Muslim person that can't eat bacon or ham and stuff, so you can't put that in. You might get somebody else of a religious background that can't eat something. And so, there's allergies, food allergies. So it's not as simple as, I'll cook for homeless people and I'll take it out. Because 9 times out of 10, you'll take it out. Some of it will get eaten, some of it will get thrown in the bin. And there's the trust issue too. I've built up a rapport and a trust and a bond with people, and I can cook for them, where if you think they're going to accept food from a stranger that they don't know, they would be very, very wary because they have to protect themselves too. I hope everybody understands what I'm saying. It's a complex issue. It's not simple to say, I'm going to go and cook this and I'm going to take it out and give it to so-and-so. And the other thing is too, not everybody is safe to go to see. I mean, there's lots of complex issues out on the streets. There's lots of addiction. There is a lot of mistrust for authority, a lot of mistrust of charities, people that work for charities, councils or anything else. So, and also a lot of these people have extreme trauma backgrounds. So being approached by a stranger is often really, really scary to these people, and they're very untrusting to begin with. So you take a risk not knowing the person, whether you can actually approach them and say, look, hey mate, do you want a hot meal or something else? I mean, you might get told, nah, F off or whatever. And then that's happened to us before too, when we first met somebody and we've offered them a feed. So we think, okay, no worries, off we go to the next person. That is it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. And there's also ways to keep yourself safe out on the street, which I know through my background, employment, and my years of working with disadvantaged people. There are ways too that you go out that you can protect yourself, which the average Joe Blow person is not aware of. So it's not as easy to say, oh, Sonia, what can I do to help? I need to do this. Can I do that? I need to cook and I need to do this and that and everything. I don't want that to happen, but at the same time, I don't want to be dissuasive of people that are really caring and kind and wanting to help. But I think it's educating people to know what the issues are, what's the best way to do things, and it's nothing's black and white. There's lots of complex issues. There was one lady, bless her soul, absolutely lovely lady, lived up at Gamaraka or somewhere today, that offered, a week or two's accommodation and a shower or whatever. I would, to that lady, I would never ever say to you, yes, do that, because I don't know the background of this lady. I don't know her history. I don't know her past. I don't know who she is or too much about her. So I am not going to put you at risk by saying, oh, yes, please take this lady for a week, because I don't know her. And I don't, and if I believed that it was safe to take people off the streets and put them in my home or my spare room, I would have done it a long time ago, but I would never do that. And it's not because of any other reason other than, you don't know people. You don't know their backgrounds. You don't know their history. You don't know what they're capable of. And you're not going to find that out either by asking questions, let me tell you. So I don't think it's safe for people to say, oh, I'll give you a room for a week, or I'll let you stay at my house for a week. I don't believe that's safe. And I would never recommend anybody do that. What we do need, and the other thing is, these people need safety, security and stability. So picking them up and taking them out of their comfort zone where they are on the street at the moment and putting them somewhere else and isolating them, they would be terrified. They would not go. They would not go. So that's not the answer either. And I hope people understand that aspect of it, and saying, well, I've got accommodation for a week. Well, a week's not good enough. It's not long enough. And they're going to be out on the street the following week anyway. So all we're doing is postponing their going out on the street for a week. So I wanted people to understand that these are complex issues. They're not normal issues, and we can't treat them as normal issues. What the government's doing at the moment is, as I said, deliberately keeping people on the streets, because they won't house certain types of people. They won't house addicts. They have people running these industries like the Housing Trust, ANWR, and all of these places that do for the homeless people. They have people running those places that are very judgmental. They take it upon themselves with no credentials or qualifications whatsoever to diagnose people with issues and being drug addicts and everything else when they are completely clueless and have no idea. So people get sabotaged. They make up stories about people. I nearly didn't get one of my people housed because the Housing Trust had made up a heap of false stories about them. And when we asked them and pressured them to hand them over, no, they wouldn't do that. And they end up housing the person because they were liars. So, and for those of you saying, go to Homeless Connect, go to ANWR, go to Catherine House, we do all that. We tell everybody. And the first thing I tell people to do is to ring and register with ANWR and ring Homeless Connect. I know it's a waste of time, but unfortunately that's the way the government set things up, and we've got no choice but to do that, whether we know it's going to help or not. So, of course we do that. And there's just no help out there. There's nothing. And these things can take months and months and months and months before you even get a meeting or case management and everything else. And right now, as I said to you the other day, ANWR's hardly got any staff left. They don't even have a CE at the moment. A lot of their staff got sacked last year. And because of me lobbying so hard and going over their head to the minister all the time for not doing their jobs properly, there's the intake person, there's only one left, won't work with me. I said to somebody today who I'm advocating for, please ring ANWR, but don't mention my name. Because if you mention my name, they'll tell you we won't work with you and we won't have anything to do with her. Now, it's only one lady that feels this way, as far as I know, and she was the one lady in the intake team that's left that was so nasty to me over the last couple of years, and I had to keep going over her head to get people housed all the time. Because, unfortunately, because I don't belong to an organisation and I'm working as a community member, no one will tell me anything. They won't work with you. They won't give you confidential information. When I've asked for them to sign share information forms, they don't give the forms. They're very secretive, and they don't want people like me around. And the reason that they're very secretive and they don't want people like me around is because they do dodgy things. They don't do their job properly, and they don't want to be called out, and they don't want to be exposed, and they don't want anyone to know what they're doing. And that's unfortunately the way in a lot of government agencies and a lot of these charity organisations, the secrecy and the lack of transparency, just like government, is quite significant. So they don't want somebody like me sniffing around watching what they do. And I'm okay with that, well, I'm not okay with it, but, if people won't work with you, what do you do? And, like, for instance, Homeless Connect, if you've got an advocate and the advocate speaks on the phone, they won't speak to you, the advocate. They want to speak to the person. And you can even explain to them, look, this person has dementia. They get confused very easily. I'm advocating on their behalf because I've known them for some time. And they say, oh, no, the person has to do it themselves. So they won't allow advocacy. And because these people can't advocate for themselves in the way that they need to be able to get housing, they don't get housed. They get left by the wayside. I've got one lad on the street now. He's in his mid-50s. I call him a lad because I'm an old lady. Mid-50s, career, in and out of jail, homeless, everything else. He's got a really good heart, but has had a tough life. And I want to get him housed. And I had him signed up to ANWR 2 years ago when I housed the twins. And because he didn't have the capacity to engage with ANWR, they put him off the list or shoved him on to somebody else. And then they didn't have the ability to engage with him. So he got left by the wayside again. And now we've had to re-sign him with ANWR 2 years later. And again, he's not going to be capable of engaging with them. And he's engaging with me after I've been supporting this man for 2.5 years. So that's how long it's taken him to start engaging with me properly. And now we've got him back signed up with ANWR. They will have, again, difficulty engaging with him, and they won't be able to house him. And they won't let me be his advocate. He's asked, I want Sonia to be my advocate. And they said, no, we have to deal with you. We can't have an advocate dealing on your behalf. So again, he's going to be on the streets for years and years to come because no one will let me advocate for him. He's had the greatest amount of support through me than he has had from anybody. But I can't get him off the street because I'm not allowed. I have no rights for him and I can't help him because the government won't let me. The ANWR won't let me. So how does that make sense? You know, you support people, you really want to get them housed, you've got them in the best position they've ever been, ever in their lives, and the ideal opportunity now to get them into a house and it be successful. And my hands are tied because of red tape, confidentiality, secrecy, bad policy. ANWR should be disbanded immediately. Katrine Hildyard, you need to do your job and you need to disband ANWR immediately. That model is not working. If it was up to me and I was running this state, I would also get rid of the Housing Trust because that is just a money pit and it's poorly run, poorly managed, poorly legislated. Get rid of that too. And let's put the responsibilities to each individual council to actually holistically handle and home their own homeless communities in each council district with their own allocation of public housing, and we would have people off the streets in the matter of months. But do you know the government's not going to do that? Do you know why? Do a bit of investigating yourself. Let me tell you this. Go to the Hutt Street Centre page on the ACNC, which is the Australian Charities Commission, and look up Hutt Street. And look up all of the programs the Hutt Street run. Have a look at the people that are in charge of those programs, presidents, secretaries, board members and whatever. And then click on the board members' names and see how many charities they are involved in all around Australia. Have a look at their credentials and have a look at their bank balances. Do a little bit of research for yourself. That's all I'm going to say. But there is a hell of a lot of people, homeless people are commodities. So there's a lot of rich people out there, academics, really, really rich people, that are making millions off the back of homeless peoples and homeless charities. Honestly, it's bizarre. So the government aren't going to change things because there's too many people making money from it. You know, ask yourself why South Australia really has not much at all for the homeless people compared to interstate. Interstate, if you're a homeless person in Melbourne, you can go to multiple places 24 hours a day and get a cup of coffee, heat up a frozen meal in the microwave, sit down, read the paper, charge your devices, and probably get a bed for the night. Here, you cannot get anything. And I always laugh when the rough weather comes and the government says it's a code red. That means absolutely nothing to people on the streets, because people in the suburbs have got nowhere to go when there's a code red. You know, it might be for a few people in the city that have access to a certain church. I think it's one place in Adelaide that you can go, but none of the people in the suburbs are going to take all of their belongings and all of their valuables and everything and try and get over to the other side of town to go to a place that's probably full. So code red means nothing. And all of the homeless people laugh as well. There's nowhere here for people to go if there's a code red. Nowhere at all. That's true, Lisa Ann, yes. And that's why I'm so horrified that we have a government that spent $45 million. I still can't believe that. I lose sleep over it. $45 million for a golf course. Yes, the Premier says it's going to bring people in, but it's only going to bring a minority in, and they're not going to stay. And what happens after that 3 years when the Open's finished? We're back to a few elite golfers that we've spent $45 million on. Do you know what I could do for the homeless with $45 million? Even $1 million. Do you know what I could do? You know, just recently, the government needs to think outside the box. Just recently, I saw that Cuddly Creek Caravan Park was up for sale. I think, you know, they might want, I think I heard on the grapevine they want about $3 million for it. And that's the cafe, the pub, and the caravan park. And there's 9 hectares of unpowered sites there, about 67 sites. There's units, cabins and everything there. I sent it through to the government. I said, you need to buy this. I don't know what's happening with it, but can you imagine how many displaced people we could plan emergency accommodation for homeless people? And, you know, we could teach them, we could run courses out there and teach them how to be baristas, those that were capable. We could teach them bar skills and how to run a pub. You could teach them so many skills out there at that place and have it as a homeless hub and a like a TAFE college thing where you would teach people how to earn a living and teach people skills so they could get jobs. Or you would just provide a safe place for people to be. And I bet you any money like that probably doesn't happen. And it would be a temporary solution, but it would be better than nothing, because right now they're doing nothing. But what we need is real legislative change. We need the government to stop doing things the way that they're doing them now. And the lack of understanding by the government, by the people, it annoys me, because most of the people that make decisions on homeless people are people that have degrees, learnt everything that they know out of a book, and they don't have any lived experience. Or they've only got their own lived experience by being in jobs, working with homeless people that don't talk to them. So it's very, and I'm not saying that I am the only homelessness expert and I am the only one that knows, you know, what I'm talking about. There's probably some other lovely people out there that have dedicated years to working with homeless people that have the same knowledge. I'm not saying that I am any more special than anybody else. But I do think the government needs to listen to people like me who do have lived experience and do know and are out there on the streets working with people. I do know the issues. I do know what's working and what's not working, because I've tried housing people. And I know it took me 3 months last time to house 2 people, because I know the gaps in the system. I know the inadequacy in the system. I know the people who aren't doing their jobs properly. I know where the gaps are. There's so many systematic gaps. The gaps in the system are extraordinary, and they are what's also keeping people on the street. Those gaps need to be plugged and filled in. And to do that, they need to listen to people like me who can advise them. This is what's not working. This is what's working. These are where the gaps are. These are what needs filling in. And understand that everybody that's out on the street are there for a reason. When I hear some of these people's stories, I think to myself, good God, what humans are capable of doing to one another. No wonder you're out on the street. No wonder you're in the situation that you're in. No wonder you're a crack user. You know, when you hear people's stories, you think to myself, well, Jesus, I would have been in the same position. These stories are, you know, a lot of us, thankfully, are protected from these things, but some of the stories I hear are worse than any horror movie I've ever seen. You have to understand that these people are wounded and suffering and traumatized beyond what you could even imagine, to get them where they are today, to be on the street and using drugs to survive or whatever, you know, in and out of jail. And there's only very few that are in and out of jail, get me, but there are. And survival on the streets. I mean, it's a different world out there on the streets. People are very untrusting. So you need to be, as I said, you can't just go up to anyone and say, well, can I cook you a meal or take you home and make you a cup of coffee or something like that, because you don't know. You don't know who they are. You don't know their history. So I love the fact that people want to help, but we need to help in the right way, is what I'm trying to say. We need to help in the right way. I'm happy to take food donations. They need to be certain foods, though. I'm happy to take donations of rugs, pillows, blankets, quilts, tents, little camping stoves, blow-up beds, all that sort of stuff that I can immediately pass on to somebody else. I have to be careful because I don't have a lot of storage room. My shed, I've got a table full in the shed, and I've got a spare room with one corner full that I've got to go through this week and see what I've got, so that I can empty some stuff out to make room for more stuff. I stopped keeping non-perishable foods a while back because no one eats them. So I cook fresh food every Saturday, meals, and I take them out hot in foil takeaway containers. I take out hot water. I take out noodles. I take out cup of soups. Some will eat noodles, some won't. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is there's one other thing that I'm working on at the moment. And I've approached 3 councils so far, and I really need a reporter, one of the mainstream reporters that cares about homelessness. I really need you to contact me about this, because if you understand, councillors have their own inspectors and compliance people where they go around and check restaurants, they go around and check any food businesses to make sure that they are doing the right thing and that their businesses are up to scratch with hygiene and everything else, and the food's being served is wonderful and everything else. But charities seem to not be under the radar of councils. And I'm sick to death of hearing that that charities are handing out rotten food. And no matter the charity, they all do it. They all hand out rotten food to people that is not fit for human consumption, and it needs to stop. I don't like. We need to change the mentality. I hear people say all the time, "Oh, but they're homeless. They should be grateful for anything." We need to stop that way of thinking, because these are human beings and they deserve fresh food the same as what you and I get. They don't deserve rotten food that's not fit for human consumption just because they don't have a house and they're on the streets. We need to stop that mentality. What should be happening now, the way I like to explain this is, everybody knows by now that I'm vegan, so I buy a lot of fruit and vegetable. I don't buy fresh stuff from the fruit and veg shop or the supermarkets or anything else. The fruit and veg we buy in this city is not fresh. And we get the same stuff distributed to us that they take out to Elizabeth. If you go over the eastern suburbs, it's a different grade of fruit and veg. However, much of what we buy is not fresh. When we buy it, and we pay top dollar for it. And then when it gets to sit in the Coles or Woolworths storage or Foodland or whoever's storage in the fridge for another few weeks before it gets taken out, it can't be sold and it gets passed on to food banks or Second Bite and places like that, who then go and put in their storage. Oh, shit. And then by the time it gets given to another charity and stick in storage again, it's gone off, it's mouldy, it's rotten, you can stick your finger through it, and it's putrid. And this is what charities are getting given. And this is what charities are giving to people on the street. It's disgusting, it's vile, it is not okay to give stuff you wouldn't feed to your backyard pigs to homeless people. It needs to stop. So I'm meeting with councils at the moment because I want councils to do their job and send their compliance people out to monitor what is being served to homeless people from these charities. They are giving out and serving rotten food. They're giving out rotten food to people that are not fit for human consumption, and people are getting sick. People are getting ill. Now, these people are already vulnerable, already have low immune systems, and you charities are giving them rotten food that's not fit for human consumption. I want councils to start changing this. Get your compliance people to go out. If Cos We Care or Puddle Jumpers or whoever else is giving out food to people, councils should be there to check out that food to make sure it's fit for human consumption before it's handed out. That's what I'm working on at the moment. That needs to change. I feel so passionate about this. It is not okay to give out rotten food to anybody. And I'm not talking about a bit of mould on the corner of something that you can cut off and still use the rest. I'm talking about rotten food. So I'm working on that at the moment. I've met with 3 councils so far and given something to think about. And I really need a mainstream reporter to do a story about this, please, because I am sick to death of charities going under the radar and not being held to any sort of standard or compliance or being regulated in any way, shape or form when they are handing out food to vulnerable people. So please be mindful. If you have a charity and you get food that's not fit for human consumption, throw it in the damn green waste bin. Do not give it to people. You are making them sick. So that's another thing I've been working on, and I really need help to get that out Adelaide-wide to people. Because homeless people are they deserve the same thing you and I get, the same fresh food. I don't even buy food that's low code for people. I only buy fresh for people because I would never feed anyone that I wouldn't eat myself. So please understand that there's so many issues around homelessness in this state that need fixing. There is so much wrong with the system, and I feel compelled, because I hate injustice and I care about people. I want to get this out to the public. I want you to understand and have a greater education around the complexities of homelessness and of what the government's doing and why I get so frustrated. And I'm trying desperately to change people's perception of homelessness. I'm wanting to change the way the government do things. I'm wanting to change the way charities do things. Because it's not okay what's happening. And they've been getting away with this stuff for years. Unregulated, unmonitored and unattended. And the poor homeless people on the streets, as if they haven't got enough to deal with all of their complexities and their life and having to deal with the elements and everything. People die on the streets. You look at the statistics about how many people die on the streets. And I even shudder to think that I've got that to look forward to at some stage in my life doing this job. I am going to find that. And I'm trying to prepare myself for it, but I don't think you ever can prepare yourself for it. I want to make a difference in this world, even in our little patch. I want to make a difference. I want things to change. I want us to do things better. We are Australia. We're a wealthy country. We're not an uncivilized country. We're not a third world country. We shouldn't have people on the streets. We shouldn't have archaic, ridiculous policies and ridiculous unrealistic expectations of homeless communities. As I said in previous videos, the government is not doing the right thing. They're not doing enough. And how you can help the situation is to lobby your local politician. I'm a bit disappointed. One of our local politicians, I used to meet with fortnightly for over a year, and I would tell them about what I was doing on the streets and how I was, helping community, and how I was, and sat down and told them the issues within the system and what needed changing. And that person has done, as far as I know, absolutely nothing to help with our local homeless community, with approaching ministers to change legislation or anything else. I don't bother meeting with them anymore. I don't bother meeting with the local politicians anymore. There's one left now that I have the utmost respect for, that I continue to talk to, but the rest I can't be bothered anymore, because I'm not going to waste my time speaking to people over and over and over and over again who just don't get it and don't want to do anything about the situation and don't want to help. But that same person did help quite a few times and made a difference to one man's life. So I really thank them for that. And I'm happy to work with you again if you want to. Not your staff, but with you. If you want to make a difference, please contact me. I just want to work together to get people off the street, to make a difference, to people to be healthy, happy and safe is my objective. So anyway, I better get off because I've got people trying to ring me again, and some of them are homeless people and they obviously need me for something. So I just wanted to, without raveling on too, this is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm passionate about educating people, making people aware, and having a society with more compassion. Please get your local MP involved and say, what are you doing to change things? What are you doing to talk to people like Sonia who have lived experience? Chris Adams, who's been homeless for 17 years. Start talking to people with lived experience instead of people in suits behind desks that have learnt what they learnt out of a book. And I'm not saying that they're not, not experts in the field, but there's a difference between experts that learnt what they did out of a book than those actually doing the work and working on the streets and having the lived experience. There's a difference between the two. And unfortunately, ministers will go to the suits every time and ignore us people that have the lived experience, which is what they've done in the foster care system, with the child protection system and every other system out there. So anyway, I've spoken long enough. I'm happy to sit down with anyone and have a cup of coffee if you want to learn more. If you want me to do more videos, please go to my YouTube channel with the interviews from Chris Adams. Watch the interviews with Chris Adams. You'll learn a lot. I'll put the link up under the live, and I'll talk to everybody again soon. Hopefully I've explained it so that people understand that it's not as easy. It's not just so easy to put up your hand and say, I can offer this, I can offer that. How can I help? I love the fact that people are offering and coming forward, but it's not an easy situation. It's more complex, and often what you're offering is not the way to help, if that makes sense. Anyway, thank you for listening. Bye for now.